Hey everyone, I'm Shaylin here with Reedsy. Today we're going to be talking about writing the inciting incident. The inciting incident is a crucial beat in a story. Almost every story has an inciting incident, and along with the climax, it's pretty much one of two beats your story needs to have. It's very rare that you find a story that doesn't have an inciting incident. Problems with the inciting incident can cause general structure-related problems throughout, so it's an important beat to get right. But for that reason, it can also be kind of a mysterious one, and one people have a lot of questions about. So here are the qualities of the inciting incident and how to write one that works. So essentially, the inciting incident is an event that ignites the plot. If you removed the inciting incident, the general story wouldn't happen. You could think of it this way: you have a character who's living a status quo life, the inciting incident happens, and it launches the plot into its arc. For example, Harry Potter learning he's a wizard, or Katniss Everdeen volunteering for the Hunger Games. If these things don't happen, the plot doesn't happen. The inciting incident usually occurs early. If it occurs too late, then you can spend too long in that status quo and the reader can get bored. And it's usually an event with a very clear significance, because it's going to change the course of the character's life. So let's start out by talking about some misconceptions about the inciting incident. First of all would be that it's the first thing to happen. Although the inciting incident should happen early and it can be the first scene, it doesn't necessarily have to be. There are books that have the inciting incident in the first paragraph or even the first sentence, but that's not a requirement. It's the beginning of the main arc, but maybe not the beginning of the entire story. Some books spend a little more time establishing the world beforehand. It just depends on what information is necessary in order to understand the inciting incident. If you don't really need extra background information to understand the inciting incident, it can happen earlier. But if you need more context to understand it, it needs to happen a bit later. Second of all would be that it's the hook. Although the inciting incident can function as the hook, it doesn't necessarily have to. The hook is a dramatic moment that captures the reader's attention, whereas the inciting incident is the catalyst. Those can be the same thing, but they don't necessarily have to be. And third would be that it raises more questions than it answers. Now, of course, the inciting incident generally does raise questions. It makes us wonder what's going to happen. But a lot of the time the inciting incident is actually a moment of clarity, because what it does is solidify the reader's expectation and also the character's expectation for the journey that is to follow. So now, what makes a good inciting incident? First of all, is that it's exciting to read. This moment is going to change the course of your character's life, and it should feel as important as it is. Second of all is that it makes good use of external forces. Now, we like characters who have internal goals and act internally, but oftentimes with the inciting incident, it's so early on in the plot that it's coming from the outside. Later on in the story, we want our character to be active, but at this point, early on, it's actually okay for external forces to cause the story to begin, even if those forces are a coincidence. Readers can't really tolerate coincidence at the end of the plot, but they can at the beginning. For example, in The Wizard of Oz, it's just a tornado, a random natural event that takes Dorothy's house and drops it in Oz. This is completely out of her control, but it gives her a clear path and a clear goal to get back to Kansas. Number 3, place it as early as you can. Now, this doesn't mean as early as is physically possible, as in the first sentence, but as early as the confines of your story will allow. Place it at the earliest point where it can function without being confusing or losing impact. Before the inciting incident, there isn't a clear story or goal for the reader to invest in, so we don't want to spend too long before getting to it, because that can kind of test your reader's patience. It usually happens within the first chapter or two, or somewhere within the first 20 pages. And finally, you can try connecting it to your theme. The inciting incident ignites the story's arc, and this arc often has a parallel theme along with it. In that way, the inciting incident can be the catalyst for not just the main storyline, but also the thematic storyline. For example, it could have a parallel to a crucial moment later on. A great example of this is in The Hunger Games, where the inciting incident is the main character making a sacrifice, which mirrors a general theme of sacrifice throughout the series that appears later on. That's a guide to the inciting incident. If you want to learn more and check out more examples, you can check out the blog post linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to subscribe for new writing, editing, and publishing videos every Tuesday and Friday. Until next time.